Hello everyone, welcome back to Control Systems lectures. Today we will discuss about the rules of root locus, 7 of which have been already discussed in the previous videos. So if you have not seen those videos, then please watch those and then come back. In brief, what we are doing in this root locus is that suppose if we have a transfer function, which can be this transfer function, it can be written as Cs divided by Rs equal to k into gs upon 1 plus gs into hs into k. Okay, if this is our transfer function, then the poles of the system, they are very important, and to determine these poles of the system, they are very important to determine the system's performance. So what we do here is we track the poles of the system when the value of k, this k, if it is varied from 0 to infinity. And again I'm saying it's not important, it's not necessary that we vary this variable k only, we can also vary other parameters as well. So when we track the poles of the system, when any parameter, if it is varied from 0 to infinity, then that diagram is known as root locus diagram, and you have certain rules to follow, which if you follow those rules and you just make the root locus diagram, then it will become very easy for you to understand a system's performance, how it is behaving when any parameter is varied. Okay, so now let's look into we have already seen 7 of the rules. Now let's look into the 8th rule, that is to calculate the angle of departure or angle of arrival. So why we have got this rule is that in any system it's not necessary that you always have real poles or real zeros only. Like we have seen systems till now, where if we have this got S plane, then it can have like two poles over here, 1 0 over here, 1 0 over here. Systems like this have been seen, but it's not necessary that these poles and zeros, they're always real in nature. Like any system they can have complex conjugate poles or complex conjugate zeros also. Okay, now if there are such complex poles or such complex zeros, only then we'll be using this rule, that is rule number 8. Okay, otherwise it's not needed. So whenever we have got complex poles or complex zeros in any system, only then rule 8 has to be applied. Now why is this rule needed? So suppose if we have got a system, like I have made a system over here, uh, let's make it less complicated. Okay, if you have got a system like this, and suppose we have got other zeros as well. Okay, now we know that any system, when we draw the root locus diagram, the poles, the root locus diagram, it always starts with open loop poles. Okay, open loop poles, and it always terminates at open loop zeros. Open loop zeros. Now when we have got complex conjugate poles or we have complex conjugate zeros, that means let's first take only complex conjugate poles. Okay, now suppose if we have got like we have got a pair of complex conjugate poles, then we know that they have to terminate at complex conjugates, they have to terminate at open loop zeros, which can be complex conjugate, they can be real in nature depending on the system, but they have to terminate. Okay, now if that's the case, the angle of departure is basically what is the angle at which this complex pole, it will depart at which angle. Like suppose ऐसा हो कि this pole it has to merge at the zero. Suppose I'm just taking it randomly. So whether this pole will merge at the zero like directly, okay, this angle, initial angle, whether this initial angle is directly like over here, okay, this, if I'm taking like at this angle, if will this depart, or whether it will take a curve and then it will merge at this 0, or whether it will depart at such angle and then it will merge at this 0. So there can be various trajectories for this complex conjugate pole. For this complex pole, various trajectories can be taken, but it's not like it will take, it's not like it can take any random trajectory. What this angle of departure means, that it is the angle at which your complex 0 will depart. ठीक है, ये जब ये कॉम्प्लेक्स आपका पोल है, ये किस एंगल से डिपार्ट होगा, कौन से एंगल से वो मूव करेगा इनिशियली व्हेन द वैल्यू ऑफ k इज इक्वल टू 0. सो दैट इज द एंगल ऑफ डिपार्चर. सिमिलरली एंगल ऑफ अराइवल, जब हम एंगल ऑफ अराइवल की बात करते हैं, वो एंगल है जब आपका कोई भी पोल है वो कॉम्प्लेक्स 0 पे किस एंगल से अराइव करेगा. वो at k tending to infinite, what is the angle at which any pole it is arriving at a complex 0. So that is known as the angle of arrival. So if you want to find it, then we have got this formula, that is phi d. Phi d is given as equal to plus minus 180 degree plus phi, where phi is the summation of zeros minus summation of poles. Now summation of angle of certain zeros minus summation of angle of pole, like phi z1, phi z2 and so on. So if you had any system, let me take a simple system. If you have any system where you have got this pair of complex conjugate poles, okay, and if you have got one 0 over here, then I'll mark the 0 as z1. I've got this pole as p1 and I've got another pole which is p2. So phi z1 is actually, phi z1 is the angle which this 0, like if I want to calculate the angle of departure for this complex pole, then for this the phi z1 will be the angle which the 0 makes with this pole. So if I draw a straight line over here, what is the angle which this 0 is making with this complex pole? So that is my phi z1. Similarly, if I had phi, like another 0, that was z2, then what is the angle which this z2 is making with this complex pole, that is p1. So this will be my phi z2. This will be known as phi z2. Similarly, अगर phi z3 होता तो वो इससे कितना एंगल बना रहा है. So this is what we mean by phi z1, phi z2, phi z3 and so on. Similarly, phi p1, phi p2. So what is the angle which the poles make with this complex pole, for which we have to calculate the angle of departure. तो suppose यहाँ पे एक और पोल होता तो वो इससे कितना एंगल बना रहा है, ये ऑलरेडी एक कॉम्प्लेक्स पोल है, ये इससे कितना एंगल बना रहा है. सो दे आर phi p1, phi p2 and so on. Okay, so here we can easily see, like suppose I'll take some values for it so it becomes clear. Suppose these complex poles, they are located at, like if this is -1, and let me take this as 1j, let me take this as -1j. So we have got complex poles which are lying at -1 plus minus j. Okay, and then we have got a 0 over here. Let me take the value of 0, location of 0 as -2. So I've got a real 0 over here which value is -2. So if I want to calculate the angle of departure, like at what angle this p1 will move about when it's departing, so for that we have to calculate phi d. Phi d will be plus minus 180 plus phi. And what is phi? It is summation of angles which the zeros are making with that complex pole minus summation of all the other poles that are making with that complex pole. So here we have got only 1 0 and 1 pole which we have to calculate for P1. So it will be phi Z1 minus phi P2. What is phi Z1? The angle that this is making. So here you can see phi Z1 can be written as tan inverse of perpendicular upon base. Okay, so here we have got perpendicular. This is the perpendicular. This angle we have to calculate. So this angle कैसे निकाल सकते हैं? Perpendicular tan inverse of perpendicular by base. Perpendicular इसका कितना value है? This perpendicular's value is 1. So this will be 1. Divided by base, again it's 1. So this will be 1. So it will be tan inverse of 1 minus phi P2. So what is the angle which this complex pole is making with P1? So ये कितना एंगल होगा? So that also directly also you can write, or otherwise tan inverse again perpendicular by base. कितना perpendicular है, base कितना है, उससे आप निकाल सकते हो. So this will be clear. Tan inverse 1, it's 45 degree minus here you can see this is actually making 90 degree with it. So this will become 45 minus 90, that is minus 45 degree. So this we have calculated phi. Phi value has been calculated. Now I want to calculate angle of departure. Angle of departure is phi d. So phi d will be calculated like phi d will be equal to 180 degree plus phi. So 180 degree plus minus 45, or this will be equal to minus 135 degree. Okay, so minus 135 degree, that means here what we had shown, or I'll just make another one. Okay, we had this pole, we had this complex pole over here, we had 1 0 over here. So actually if I say 135 degree, that means अगर इसमें ऐसे 135 means if you make an angle over here, 135 will lie somewhere over here. So this pole's trajectory actually will be, initially it will move at this angle. Initially ये pole आपके इस angle पे move करेगा, ऐसे मूव नहीं करेगा, ऐसे मूव नहीं करेगा, ये इनिशियली मूव करेगा इस एंगल पे. ओके, द इनिशियल एंगल फॉर दिस पोल विल बी दिस. देन वेयर एवर इट हैज़ टू गो इट कैन go, but initial angle is defined as the angle of departure. So now when you have to calculate phi for P1, then you need not do the same process for P2. We always have, if we are talking about complex poles, then complex poles means they'll always be in pair. ठीक है, अगर यहाँ पे P1 है तो यहाँ P2 होगा ही. ऐसा नहीं होगा कि आपके पास एक कॉम्प्लेक्स पोल है दूसरा कॉम्प्लेक्स पोल है ही नहीं. So they'll always be in pair. So here I had written, I have taken 180 degree plus phi. ये मैंने ले लिया अभी, लेकिन फॉर्मूला में लिखा था प्लस माइनस 180 डिग्री प्लस फाई. सो इफ दिस प्लस 180 डिग्री प्लस फाई, इफ आई हैव कैलकुलेटेड दिस फॉर P1, ये P1 के लिए निकाला है, तो ऐसे ही अगर आप P2 के लिए निकालते, सेम प्रोसेस करते कि आप Z1 इससे कितना एंगल बना रहा है, P1 इससे कितना एंगल बना रहा है, इसको आप कैलकुलेट करते, तो आपका जो आंसर आता वो सेम आता, बट मल्टीप्लाइड बाय माइनस, लाइक दिस माइनस ओवर हियर, इससे आप मल्टीप्लाई कर देते तो आपका आंसर यहाँ पे 135 डिग्री आता. ओके, सो दस इन द फॉर्मूला व्हेन यू आर गेटिंग plus minus 135 degree, this means that plus 135 is angle of departure for P1 and minus 135 degree is the angle of departure for P2. Similarly, in the same notation we can also say, like if we had complex zeros, अगर हमारे पास complex zeros होते हैं and we had poles over here, then also same thing, हम same process करते कि किस एंगल पे पोल इस ज़ीरो पे अराइव करेगा वो हम निकालते. The only difference there is that if you want to calculate angle of arrival, then the formula for it is plus minus 180 degree minus phi. Here is the difference. Angle of departure, it is plus minus 180 degree plus phi, and for angle of arrival it is minus phi. The other process is same. So in that case again you have to repeat the process of finding phi. The only difference will come where you find that the angle of arrival is 180 degree minus phi. So this is the rule number 8, that is to determine the angle of arrival and angle of departure. Next, come to rule number 9, which is the point of intersection of root locus with the imaginary axis, and it can be determined using the Routh-Hurwitz criteria. Now this is also a very important part. If while drawing the root locus you realize that the root locus diagram is actually intersecting with the imaginary axis. So imaginary axis actually in the S plane, it is actually a boundary. If you draw the S plane, okay, so this is the S plane. We can have poles over here, we can have poles over here, okay, but the difference is if we are talking about closed loop poles, then the difference is if the pole is lying on the left hand side, then the system is stable. If the pole, however, it moves to the right hand side, then the system becomes unstable. But if the pole is lying on the imaginary axis, okay, if a single pole is lying on the imaginary axis, then it will be marginally stable system. So imaginary axis is actually a boundary between this stable system and this unstable system. So if you are designing any system and if you are not careful, then a stable system can become unstable if the value of k is varied. Like I am varying the value of k from 0 to infinity. Suppose initially my system was stable, okay, root locus initially it's coming like this, k की वैल्यू आप बढ़ाते जा रहे हो, रूट लोकस आपका इस तरीके से बन रहा है. बट आफ्टर अ पॉइंट इफ this is crossing this imaginary axis, imaginary line, and then it is going to the right hand side of the S plane. Okay, in the previous video also we had seen that the root locus plot, actually it was like we had one pole over here, it was going to minus infinity, then we had two poles over here. So one pole came here, one pole came here, and then they went to the other side of the S plane. So the root locus diagram, if you have not seen that video, previous videos, then please go to that. So we had discussed a example like this. So at when k equal to 0, the roots are located. The roots were located like one root was located at 0, one was located I think like at -2, another was at -4. Thus the system was stable when system was stable at first, but as k tends to infinity, the pole at the -4 it moved towards negative infinity, but these two poles, that is at 0 and -2, they went to the right side of the S plane. Thus the system became unstable. Thus it will be very crucial for us to know that what was the value of k. k की कौन सी वैल्यू थी जिसके बाद आपका सिस्टम अनस्टेबल हो गया. Okay, what was the value of k after which the poles went to the right hand side of the S plane, which means that we want to know the value of k when the root locus is cutting this imaginary axis. ये किस point पे cut कर रहा है, and this can be found out using Routh-Hurwitz criteria. But how Routh-Hurwitz criteria is going to help us in this, just let us see. Okay, so our GSHS was k divided by s into s plus 2 into s plus 4. I am taking the same example that we have already solved in the previous video. So there the value of GSHS was k upon s into s plus 2 into s plus 4. Now for Raut-Hurwitz criteria, we use a characteristic equation which is 1 plus GSHS, that's equal to 0. This is the characteristic equation. So if we apply this over here, it will become 1 plus GSHS is k into s, and k divided by s into s plus 2 into s plus 4. This should be equated to 0. This will be the characteristic equation. If we solve this, then we'll get s cube plus 6s square plus 8s plus k equal to 0. Now we'll make the Routh array for this characteristic equation. So the Routh array, let me make the Routh array. So the Routh array for this will be, first we draw the first column. So s cube, s square is to the power 1, s to the power 0, because highest power of s is 3. Now we just make it. So coefficient here it's 1, here it's 6, this one is 8, and this one is k. So the term over here, it will be 8 into 6, okay, minus 1 into k divided by 6. So it will be 8 into 6, 48, minus k divided by 6, and here this will be equal to k. Okay, if you multiply this into k minus 6 into 0 divided by again this term, so it will come out to be equal to k. Now for stable system, the first row's elements, if we are talking about first column, the elements of the first column of the Routh array, for a stable system, there should be no sign change over here. Thus here we can see this is positive, thus we can say that this and this value, it should also be positive. 48 minus k divided by 6 and k, they should also be positive for the system to be stable. Thus this condition for stability over here will become that 48 minus k divided by 6, it should be greater than 0, okay, and also k should be greater than 0. Or we can say, from here only we can say that k should be less than 48 for the system to be stable. But the important point is that the critical value of k, therefore it becomes like k, if it is equal to 48, then this 48 value becomes the critical value, and this is the value after which, if you if k's value is, if it is increased beyond this 48, then the system is going to become unstable. So this value becomes the critical value, and this value actually, it must be the value at which your root locus it's cutting, like the value of k for which the root locus is cutting this imaginary axis, तो ये वही k की value रहेगी. So k equal to 48 is that value only. It's the value which makes the root locus to be at the imaginary axis. So this is how we can find out the value of k at which the root locus is cutting the imaginary axis using your Routh-Hurwitz criteria. We can also form the auxiliary equation for this condition. Like auxiliary equation यहाँ पे क्या होगी, जो आपका odd row है उसके ऊपर वाला जो है even row, that will make the auxiliary equation. So auxiliary equation can be made from this row. It will be 6s square plus k equal to 0. And we are saying that the critical value of k is 48. So just substitute the value of k as 48 over here. So it will become, this will become 6s square plus 48 equal to 0, or s square equal to minus 48 divided by 6, or this should be equal to plus minus j 2 root 2. Okay, that means plus minus j root 8. So thus the branch that we are talking about, like we had pole over here and we had pole over here, this was 0, this was minus 2, they two merged, and then one went to this side, another one went to this side. So when this point is coming where the value of k is equal to 48, the point where this is cutting the value of s over here, this value is s is equal to plus 2 root 2 j, and this value is minus 2 root 2 j. So this is the value of s. So this was about, this is how you can find out the value of k. That is a point of intersection of root locus branch with the imaginary axis. It's very important if your root locus is actually cutting the imaginary axis, then it's important to determine the value of k, क्योंकि वो आपका डिसाइड करेगा कि आपको k की वैल्यू को किस रेंज में रखना है. इससे ज़्यादा अगर आप बढ़ाएंगे तो सिस्टम अनस्टेबल हो जाएगा, इससे कम रखेंगे तो सिस्टम स्टेबल रहेगा, डिपेंडिंग ऑन कि आपका रूट लोकस किस तरीके से जा रहा है. Okay, now coming to the last rule is the value of k at any point on the root locus. So आपको अगर कहीं पे भी किसी पॉइंट पे आपने रूट लोकस बना लिया है बट यू वांट टू फाइंड आउट द वैल्यू ऑफ k at any point on the root locus, then it can be figured out using this formula. This is the formula. So k at, like if I want to find out the value of k at this point, ठीक है, यहाँ पे क्या वैल्यू है, सो दिस इज सपोज एस नॉट, तो हमको पता करना है कि एस नॉट पे के की वैल्यू क्या है. सो इट इज़ द प्रोडक्ट ऑफ द फेजर लेंस ड्रॉन फ्रॉम द ओपन लूप पोल्स टू दैट पॉइंट. सो आपके पास ओपन लूप पोल्स जो है वहाँ से आप लाइन्स ड्रॉ करेंगे इस पॉइंट पे, प्रोडक्ट ऑफ दोज फेजर लेंस divided by product of phasor lengths drawn from the open loop zeros to that point. So that will give you the value of k. So this one is I think pretty simple कि आपको अगर किसी भी point पे k की value निकालनी है, so you can just draw the phasors from open loop poles and open loop zeros to that point and just take the ratio of it, the product of poles divided by product of zeros, the lengths of it. So that's how you can find out the value of k at any point in the root locus diagram. So let us now take some random examples and we'll make some changes, and then we'll figure out like how to draw the root locus plot. I'll take pretty simple examples initially, then we'll go to the complex ones. So suppose we have GSHS, it is given as k divided by s plus 1. Now you should always go step by step and figure out how will this diagram come about. So first step will always be step 1 will always be to determine the number of poles, number of open loop poles and number of open loop zeros, also their values, कि अगर आपके पास open loop poles के number कितने हैं and what are their values. This should always be your first step. So here you can see we have got only one pole which is lying at s is equal to -1. This is open loop zeros, sorry, and we have got no zeros over here. Okay, so the number of your open loop zeros in this case, in this example is 0, no zeros. Now your step 2, when you have figured out कि आपके पास ओपन लूप पोल्स कितने हैं, ओपन लूप जीरोस कितने हैं, कहाँ कहाँ लाई कर रहे हैं, स्टेप 2 शुड बी टू मार्क द पोल्स एंड जीरोस. You should always try to mark the poles and zeros on the S plane. So we'll just make S plane over here. This is the S plane, and we'll just mark the open loop poles and zeros. So we have got only one pole in the system which is lying at S is equal to -1. We have got no zeros in the system. Okay. So you just mark the poles and zeros on the S plane. Next step will be to determine the portions where the root locus will exist using the rule number 4 on the real axis. हम रूल नंबर 4 में पढ़ा था कि आपको हाउ टू डिटरमाइन कि आपका रूट लोकस रियल एक्सिस पे लाई करेगा या नहीं करेगा. सो यू हैव टू सी टू द राइट हैंड साइड ऑफ एनी रैंडम पॉइंट कि whether the total number of poles and zeros they are odd or even. If they are odd, then root locus will lie, otherwise it won't. So suppose here I check it for at this point. किसी भी पॉइंट पे चेक करना है, तो इस पॉइंट पे सपोज हमने चेक किया, तो इस पॉइंट से आप राइट साइड देखोगे तो आपके पास एक पोल है. दैट मीन्स रूट लोकस यहाँ पे लाई करेगा. सो यू जस्ट मार्क द टेरिटरी लाइक दिस इज द ग्रीन टेरिटरी. यहाँ पे आपका रूट लोकस लाई करेगा. बट अगर यही पॉइंट मैं यहाँ लेती इधर और इसके राइट में देखती तो देर आर नो पोल्स एंड जीरोस, तो यहाँ पे आप इसको रेड टेरिटरी मार्क कर देते. दैट मीन्स आपका रूट लोकस जो है वो इस पूरे जोन में लाई नहीं करेगा टिल पॉजिटिव इन्फिनिटी. बट आपका रूट लोकस यहाँ इस पूरे जोन में लाई करेगा. ओके, सो दिस इज द नॉन एग्जिस्टिंग पार्ट, दिस इज द एग्जिस्टिंग पार्ट. सो if you have marked this, then the next step will always be step 2 हमने देखा, you should step 2 mark poles and zeros. step 3 हमने देखा कि rule 4 apply it. okay, step 4 should be determine कि p minus z कितना आ रहा है. What is the value of p minus z? Because that will give you the whether the system is having asymptotes or not. Okay, so p minus z, if it is not 0, that means system is having asymptotes. Here we have total number of poles 1 minus total number of zeros 0, so that's equal to 1. Hence the asymptote will exist. There will be asymptote in the system. Why? Because obviously आपका रूट लोकस डायग्राम हमेशा स्टार्ट होता है ओपन लूप पोल से, मर्ज होता है ओपन लूप ज़ीरो पे या फिर इन्फिनिटी पे. अब यहाँ पे इस सिस्टम में तो कोई भी ओपन लूप ज़ीरो नहीं है, तो अगर ओपन लूप ज़ीरो नहीं है तो ये इन्फिनिटी में जाएगा. पर इन्फिनिटी में जाना है तो किस एंगल पे जाना है, फॉर दैट यू हैव टू फाइंड आउट द एसिम्प्टोट. सो यू जस्ट फाइंड आउट द एंगल ऑफ एसिम्प्टोट एंड द सेंट्रोइड फॉर इट. So if I find out the angle of asymptote, it's given by the formula theta. It's given as 2q plus 1 divided by p minus z multiplied by 180 degree, where q की value it will be 0 to last value should be p minus z minus 1. So here p minus z is 1. So 1 minus 1 is 0. So the only value that you can take for q is 0. If you take the value of q as 0, just substitute everything. So 1 divided by p minus z is 1 multiplied by 180 degree. That means your theta is equal to 180 degree. Okay. Similarly, you have to find out for asymptote. हमने आगे पढ़ा था कि आपको सेंट्रोइड निकालना पड़ता है. अगर सिस्टम में asymptote है तो सेंट्रोइड निकालेंगे. सेंट्रोइड is given by sigma. Sigma is the summation of the real parts of poles minus summation of real parts of zeros divided by pole minus 0. Pole minus 0 is 1. Summation of real part of pole, यहाँ पे आपका पोल का रियल पार्ट कहाँ पे लाई कर रहा है, -1 में. माइनस देर आर नो zeros. So the centroid will lie at s is equal to -1. So if I want to, the centroid and this pole, they are actually at the same point. तो ये आपका सेंट्रोइड भी है, यहीं से आपका ओपन लूप पोल स्टार्ट भी होगा. एंड देन यू कैन मार्क लाइक आपका जो सिस्टम है, ये पोल आपका अल्टीमेटली -180 डिग्री की तरफ जाएगा. सो दैट्स वेयर दिस पोल विल हैव इट्स ट्रैजेक्टरी. ये पोल एट k इक्वल टू 0, इट्स एट -1, s is equal to -1. At k tending to infinity, this pole is going to s is equal to -infinity. So this is how your pole is moving. It's moving towards -infinity. Very simple root locus. This is the root locus for it. ये रूट लोकस बता रहा है कि आपका क्लोज लूप पोल एक्चुअली में हम मार्क कर रहे हैं ओपन लूप पोल और वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट ऑल द थिंग्स, बट अल्टीमेटली ये जो ट्रैजेक्ट्री आपको मिली है, जो येलो ट्रैजेक्ट्री मिली है, दिस इज एक्चुअली टेलिंग दैट आपका क्लोज लूप पोल कहाँ से स्टार्ट किया और फाइनली आप के की वैल्यू माइनस इन्फिनिटी रखेंगे तो के आपका क्लोज लूप पोल कहाँ जाएगा. इट्स द नॉलेज दैट इट्स गिविंग इज दैट. Next, let me change the example. Let me add a 0 to the example that we have just done. So I'll take GSHS. GSHS is the open loop transfer function, and what we want is the open loop poles and open loop zeros. Okay, so we'll take GSHS. Suppose GSHS is given as k into s plus 2 divided by s plus 1. Previous example we have taken just k upon s plus 1. Now I have added a 0 to this example. So first step will be, again step 1 will be to determine the number of poles and number of zeros and where are they lying in the root locus diagram. So total number of poles, here we have got one open loop pole, of course. So open loop pole we have got one, and what is the location of it? So location is at s is equal to -1. Second, number of open loop 0. So we have got 1 0 over here. So total number of zeros is 1 and location is s is equal to -2. S plus 2, hence the location is s is equal to -2. So we have got one open loop pole, another open loop 0. Step 2. Step 2 should be to mark the pole and 0 in the S-plane. So we'll make one S-plane now. So let me make an S-plane over here. I am making the S-plane. This is the S-plane. Sorry. This is the S-plane that I am making. Okay. This is j omega axis. This is sigma axis. And here I have to mark the open loop poles and open loop zeros. So I'm marking I have got a pole at s is equal to -1, and then I have got a 0 at s is equal to -2. So this is the location of open loop pole and open loop 0. This is my second step, that is marking. We have marked the open loop pole and open loop 0. The next step would be to mark the territory, like next step will be, sorry, next step should be to apply rule 4. Where will the root locus lie on the real axis? So just see the root locus. We'll take the root locus and we'll mark the red zone and the green zone. Red zone means there the root locus won't exist on the real axis. Green zone means it will exist. So you can start from any point, like if you want to see whether this point is lying on the root locus or not. I am taking this point. So to the right of it there are 0 number of poles and zeros, that will be taken as even, hence root locus won't lie on this part, this entire part, because that will be valid for this entire part. Next, if I take suppose a point over here, okay, at this point, so to the right of it we have got one pole, hence we can say this will be, if I take the point here also, then also to the right of it there is only one pole. That one pole means it's odd number, hence root locus will lie in this zone. I'm marking it as green. Then again, if I take any point beyond this 0, like beyond this -2 towards -infinity, if I take any point anywhere in this line and if I see towards the right of it, then I'll see that there is the total number of poles and zeros to the right of it, there are 2. The number is even, hence we can say that for this entire territory there won't be, root locus won't lie. So the only portion where the root locus will lie on the real axis is between this -2 and -1. Okay, so this will be our third step. fourth step, I told you, fourth step will be to determine the value of p minus z. So just take that as the fourth step. So just the fourth step will be step 4. Find the value of p minus z. Here number of poles is 1, number of zeros is also 1. Hence this p minus z is equal to 0. So there will be no asymptotes. So asymptotes won't be there in this system. Now the reason behind it is that asymptotes will exist only if there is some ambiguity, like if there are there is a difference in the number of poles and zeros. Here we have got only one pole and one zero, one open loop pole, one open loop zero. Now you know that a root locus, it always starts from an open loop pole, okay, from an open loop pole, and it always ends or terminates at open loop 0. It will end at infinity only if this number between pole and number between zeros, they are different. So it will start with open loop pole, it will end at open loop 0. By applying the rules that we have already seen, like by applying these steps, here no asymptote will lie. This is the open loop pole, so root locus will start from here. This is the open loop 0, it will end over here. And this is the green zone, that means from here this root locus, it will start. So at k equal to 0, this root locus will start with -1 as the initial point, and it will move from here as we increase the value of k, and at the end, like if you make the value of k tending to infinity, then it will merge at this, or it will end at -2, that is the open loop 0. This is the open loop 0. So by using these rules only, we can find out that this is the root locus plot for the given example. We have found out that there are no asymptotes, and whether the system, whether this root locus is crossing the imaginary axis or not, it won't cross the imaginary axis at all. If you want to comment on this, like what can you comment on this type of root locus? Initially, whether the system was stable or not. So the system is stable at all points, because at all the time when k equal to 0, the value of pole, means your closed loop pole's value was -1. You varied the value of k, so the location of the pole, it moved, but it moved more towards the more towards this left hand side, and more the pole moves towards the left hand side, that means you can say that the time constant, its value is going to change. Okay, its value is going to change, its value is going to decrease, and less is the time constant, you can say that lesser is the settling time of the system will also decrease, and lesser is the settling time, more is going to be the stability of the system. So here, higher the values of k, more the system will be stable. Here we will be talking about relative stability. Relative stability is a term which is used only to compare two or more stable systems. Means if you have got one stable system, you have got another stable system, then which one is more stable? There you use the word term relative stability. So here we can comment for this example that higher the value of k, stability of the system will be even large. Okay, higher will be the stability of the system. So this is the root locus. This is how you can approach, like from where the pole will start, from where it will end, to which, using the rules that we have, we can move about it like this. Okay. Now, again I'll take another example. If I just change the value of if I just change this location of 0, like 0 over here, I had kept it at s plus 2. Now what if I kept the 0, suppose I have GSHs and I am keeping the 0 at s minus 2 divided by s plus 1. So I have not taken, I just changed this sign over here from from plus 2 to I have done it minus 2. So now I won't do it step by step. I'll just show you, like in the s plane, what will happen over here. You have got 1 0 at s is equal to 2, and you have got one pole, this is 0, at s is equal to 2, and you have got one pole which is located at minus 1. So the position will be, this will be minus 1, and 0 is located at this point. Now what comments I was making for the above example, will they be true for this example or not? So again, I'll go step by step. We have marked the poles and zeros. Then I'll mark the territory, that is green territory and the red territory. So here you can take the points. If there is a point lying on at this beyond this value 2, s greater than 2, this is the s plane. So beyond this 2, if the point lies, then of course to the right of it, total number of poles and zeros are, they are 0, hence the root locus won't lie in this position. Similarly, root locus will lie on this portion, okay, and then again it won't lie on this portion, okay. Again, we'll say that root locus, it starts from open loop pole, okay, and it ends at the open loop 0. So using that, we have got green territory over here. So root locus will start from this portion. Here the value of k will be equal to 0, and it will move towards the 0, and it will terminate towards this 0, okay. This is going to move towards here, and it will terminate at k equal to infinity to this point. Fine. So this is how your root locus is moving about. Here you can see just the opposite has occurred. The system was stable over here at k equal to 0, but as you increase the value of k, as the pole's location is towards the right hand side, hence the open loop pole is moving from this position and it's going to this position, okay. So as you increase the value of k, here the system is becoming more unstable. So it's very important. It's not like you add a 0 and the system is becoming more and more stable. It's important to look that where are you adding the 0 to this, where this open loop 0 is being placed. That becomes very important. Location of position of poles and zeros, it becomes very crucial, because in the earlier example, the system was becoming more stable as you were increasing the value of k, whereas here you can see that the opposite is true. So you cannot blindly comment on the value of k or on the value of addition of pole and zero. You always have to look at the particular example. You have to draw that particular root locus diagram, and then you can see like what is happening over here. Now here you can see that of course this root locus is crossing this imaginary axis, and if this is crossing this imaginary axis, then you can understand like what should be the value of k, like what is the minimum value of k that should be allowed, so that the root locus does not go towards the right hand side of the S plane. So the rule that we have seen today, that is finding out the point of intersection with the imaginary axis using the Routh-Hurwitz criteria, we can actually apply it over here. So how? We'll find out the characteristic equation. It will be 1 plus GSHS. So here 1 plus GSHS, if I do it, 1 plus k into s minus 2 divided by s plus 1, this equal to 0 will be the characteristic equation. So this actually will become s plus 1 plus ks minus 2k equal to 0. This becomes the characteristic equation. I can take the s terms common, so it will become s 1 plus k plus 1 minus 2k, this equal to 0. So I have taken the s terms common, and I have taken the s to the power 0 terms common. If I simply draw the Routh-Hurwitz table, here I can simply write it as 1 plus k, and this will be 1 minus 2k. This is my Raut-Hurwitz table for this particular example. Now for the system to be stable, you know that these two must have same sign. So I'm taking like 1 plus k, it should be greater than 0. 1 minus 2k also should be greater than 0. So from here we'll get the condition, like k should be greater than minus 1, and from here we'll get the condition which is 1 should be greater than 2k, or k should be less than 1 by 2. Hence we can see that k equal to 1 by 2. This is actually the critical point or critical value of k, because the first condition that you are seeing over here, k greater than minus 1, actually we are starting the root locus with k equal to 0 and we are increasing. So this is actually not making more sense, but this condition, that is k should be equal to 1 by 2, this is the position where in the S plane this k's value 1 by 2, this the S plane diagram that we have seen, this is the point, okay, where the value of k is actually equal to 1 by 2. Here this root locus is actually cutting the imaginary axis, and if you actually keep the value of k equal to 1 by 2 here, okay, in the characteristic equation, if you keep it, then you will find out like it's pretty simple to determine this value is s is equal to 0. So if you just keep this value in the characteristic equation, you will find out that the value of s becomes equal to 0 for this particular value of k. So you have to make sure for such kind of system, for such kind of root locus system, if you are given, then you should make sure that if you want your system to be stable, then you should keep the value of k less than 1 by 2 at any cost. Otherwise the system is going to become unstable if you are not very attentive about this value. Now let us take another example. We are moving step by step. So in the first step I took a single pole, then I have taken one pole and 1 0, and then I try to vary the position of 0. So moving ahead like that only. If suppose now the value of GSHS, if now I'm adding one pole to this system, like I'm having 1 0 already at S plus 2, what happens like now if I add one pole to the system? For this system that was S plus 2 and this was S plus 1, only the system we had seen that the root locus plot, we had a pole at minus 1, we had a 0 at minus 2, hence the root locus diagram, it actually moved from minus 1 to minus 2, and this was my root locus diagram. The system was completely stable system. But now what we are doing, we are adding a pole, at S is equal to 0. So again, if you move step by step, then first total number of poles, okay, total number of poles, we are having 2 poles, and what is the location of them? So one pole is located at 0, another is located at minus 1. Total number of zeros, it's 1, and location is S is equal to minus 2. Now if I make this root locus plot, it will be, I'm just making it, okay, this is the S plane. So my location of poles and zeros are, one pole is located at 0, another one is located at minus 1, and 1 0 is being located at minus 2. Fine. Next step will be to determine whether in which portions will the root locus lie on the real axis, that is applying rule number 4. So just marking the green and red territory, now you can easily understand in this territory no root locus will lie, but in this territory root locus will lie, and again in this territory root locus won't lie, but beyond this the root locus will lie. So beyond this, root locus is going to be there present. So we know that root locus will be present in the real axis in this green zone, in this green zone, but here the red zones, they cannot be present on the real axis. That's important. Fine. Now, next step will be to find out the value of P minus Z. So P minus Z over here, we have got two poles and we have got 1, 0. So this is equal to 1. P minus Z is 1, that means asymptote will be there. And if asymptote is there, then what will be the angle? Angle we know, like for if P minus Z is 1, then the asymptote will be located, the angle of this will be 180 degree, that we had already seen in the previous example. And now for asymptote, we also want to know what will be the centroid. That will be the next step. If you know the if you know the angle, the next step will be finding out the centroid. So centroid will lie. It will be the summation of location at poles, real part of poles minus zeros divided by pole minus 0. Pole minus 0 is 1. Our poles are located at minus 1 and 0, and our 0 is located at minus 2. So this asymptote, it will lie where? It will lie along, this will be minus 1 plus 2, that will be plus 1 divided by 1. So I can say that my asymptote is actually lying at this point, that is s is equal to 1. Now it's not necessary that the asymptote is a part of, the centroid is a part of root locus. It's not necessary. It can be a part of the root locus diagram. It cannot be a part of root locus diagram. It's just that this is the point along which you make the centroid, along which you make the asymptote. So from this point, I am going to mark the asymptote. So I am marking the asymptote with this pink color or purple color. Okay. This is my asymptote line. So one of the pole will be moving along this purple line. Fine. One of the this one will be moving along the purple line. Now next part. Now I have to find out. I know that the root locus, it always starts from open loop poles. It terminates at the open loop zeros. So I have got two open loop poles here. One is at minus 1, another one is at 0, and I have got only one 0, which is at minus 2. Okay, I also know that the green zone is between minus 1 and 0, so root locus can lie in here, but and they have to terminate at this minus 2, and one has to terminate along the infinity. Which infinity? This side, because I have got the asymptote. So one of the pole will be moving towards the negative infinity, one of the pole will be going towards this minus 2. But how can this happen? That we have to figure out using your basic understanding, like how you can perceive this. So just see now, I've got this one pole which is at s is equal to minus 1. Now this pole cannot move towards the right side, towards the left side, because this is the red zone. So it cannot move over here. The only choice that this pole has, that where can it go? So this pole can go only towards the left hand side. So here this pole will be moving. Similarly, you have got a pole at s is equal to 0. This pole cannot move towards the right side, but it can, the only option that it has the option to move towards the left hand side. So this minus 1 will be moving towards the right hand side, and this one will be moving towards the left hand side. So now you know, like if this is moving towards this side, they're actually coming closer to, they're coming and they'll be meeting at a point. Then what will happen? That means that here the two poles, they'll be merging at a point, and then the only option that it has, that it will actually break away. Okay, so in this case you have to understand that the concept of breakaway will come, and that we had discussed, that I had discussed the concept of breakaway in the previous video. if you want to find the value of breakaway, then just you have to do dk by ds. You find out what is the value of k, differentiate it with respect to s, and then find the roots of that equation. That those roots will give you the breakaway and break-in point. We'll quickly do it. So the root locus, the characteristic equation will be 1 plus gs into hs. From here we can find out the value of k. Here the value of GSHS is given as 1 plus k into s plus 2 divided by s into s plus 1. Okay, this is equal to 0. So the value of k will be equal to minus 1. This will be moved to here. So minus 1 multiplied by this will move towards this side. So s into s plus 1 divided by s plus 2. So this is the value of k, or I can write the value of k as equal to minus s square minus s divided by s plus 2. Right? This will be the value of k. Now to find out the breakaway point, I have to do dk by ds. Differentiate this k with respect to s. So dk by ds for this function, it will be denominator multiplied by the differentiation of numerator. So it will be minus 2s minus 1 minus numerator, that is minus s square minus s, into differentiation of denominator. So s plus 2 ka differentiation will become 1 divided by s plus 2 the whole square, and this should be equated to 0. This should be the condition which is applied to find out the breakaway or break-in point. Now if you solve this, you can quickly solve this one. So it will become minus, this will become minus 2s square minus s minus 4s minus 2 plus s square plus s, this equal to 0. Okay, or you can write this will become minus s square minus 4s minus 2 equal to 0. If you solve this equation, you can solve this using calculator or you can do it manually also. So just solve this quickly and you will find out that the solution of s that you are getting over here, the solution of s will be 1 is s is equal to minus 0.585 and another value of s that you are getting is minus 3.414. So these are the two values that you are getting. Now just look like whether these points are lying on the root locus diagram or not. That means on the green zone whether these points can lie. So what I had said, one point that we are getting is s is equal to minus 0.585. Another value that you are getting is minus 3.414. So minus 0.585 is lying here. I'll just rub this. So this minus 585, this will lie over here, somewhere over here. Okay, and this minus 3.414, it will be lying beyond this one, minus 2. So here somewhere minus 3.414 will be lying. Both these points are lying on the root locus because both these points are lying on the green zone. Okay, on the green zone these two points are lying. Now you can understand what will actually happen. What will happen is root locus starts with open loop poles. We had two open loop poles. Those open loop poles, they had only उनका वो किस डायरेक्शन में मूव कर सकते थे, ये -1 इधर ही जा सकता था, ये वाला इधर ही जा सकता था. Root locus diagram always terminates at the open loop zeros, which are located at, one is located at -2, another one is located at -infinity, because along the asymptote it's going. So what will happen is that this -1 will move towards this point, this 0 will move towards this point that where it will break away, this is 0.585, this is the point. S is equal to 0.585. From here, these two will break away. But how are they going to break away? One will move from here and another will move towards here. Why only this type of trajectory? Like दोनों ऐसे भी जा सकते थे, तो एक इस साइड जा रहा है एक इस साइड जा रहा है, ये क्यों? बिकॉज यू हैव टू रिमेंबर रूट लोकस इज ऑलवेज सिमेट्रिक अबाउट द रियल एक्सिस. तो अगर आप पॉजिटिव साइड में कुछ कर रहे हैं तो सेम चीज आपको नेगेटिव साइड में भी करना है, हमेशा सिमेट्री बनी रहेगी. So one will move towards the positive side, another will move towards the negative side, and then they'll using the this imaginary path, they'll move, and then they are going to this point, the second point that you got. This is actually the example of break-in point. So break-in is a point where the two poles will actually collide and then will separate. Breakaway is this first collide and then separate. Here again they are colliding and then they are separating. They are going along the real axis. So one of the root locus, it will move towards -2. One of the pole will move towards -2. Another pole will move towards the negative infinity. So this becomes the root locus diagram. So the green portion that you are seeing in this diagram, that is the root locus diagram. At k equal to 0, the poles locations were, one was located at -1, another was located at 0. At k equal to infinity, the one of the pole will be located at -2, another pole will be located at -infinity. So this is how you can conclude the root locus diagram. This is the approach by which you can move. I'll try to explain the other typical examples in the next class. Till then, keep learning and keep listening. Thank you.